Welcome to the Godzilla podcast. Welcome to the Godzilla podcast. I'm Drew.
I am Joe.
Today we are going over Godzilla vs. Hedorah, continuing on the line of Godzilla films we are entering into the 70s now, actually, Joe.
Oh, we are entering into the 70s full force with this movie.
I use the word tentatively avant-garde. I just feel like that word is overused.
Still don't know what that word means. It's used all the time.
I know, I hear it all the time. That's why. But what I'm saying is, this is an artsy Godzilla film, is it not?
Well, it's a I don't know. It depends on how you define art, Drew.
Art is subjective, Joe.
It is subjective, and so is the definition of art. That is also subjective. It definitely has a different sort of vision for what a Godzilla movie should be.
We'll go on throughout the film, but words I've read in review describing this film are eccentric, daring, and this isn't a word, but for Godzilla fans, and possibly not outside of our little cult we have going here, the obsession of Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Gojira. We all worship him like black-faced Islanders. This movie...
Do we get in blackface in order to worship? Oh boy.
Maybe if we can have Shobijin at our side, cute little Japanese, not Japanese, whatever island they happen to be from whichever movie we're watching, as long as they can be at our side singing, I would love that. Joe, the version that we are viewing is my copy of this DVD. It's the 2004 Sony Pictures release of Godzilla vs.
50th
Hedorah.
anniversary, yeah.
Yeah, which we're well past the 50th anniversary at this point. This was released in 2004. They're out of print now. There is currently a Kraken Media releasing of this film on Blu-ray, which surprisingly cheap. I think I saw it for $6 or $7.99. I would love to own that, but we watched this version because this is the film. We're watching the DVD that I've watched easily a dozen times growing up. I remember not even being able to drive yet, being in junior high and having my parents take me to FYE, or maybe it was Media Play, any one of those huge electronics brick mortar conglomerates. Yeah, I think FYE was kind of just barely a thing at the time. But anyway, you walk in, you see Godzilla movies, you see the cheapest way you can possibly get Godzilla movies, that's in these multi-packs, and it had Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Gigan, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and those are the only ones I still have, but I swear I remember seeing the film. What did we watch last time, Joe? They've been so terrible the last
Godzilla versus the terrible other creature on the made-up Psychosis
Godzilla's
Island.
Revenge. Yes, Godzilla's Revenge. But I swear I didn't own it, but that must have been one that I borrowed from Bill, good old Bill, getting me into Godzilla films. But anyway,
thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill.
Bill. Yeah. That was Bill Nye the Science Guy sing to the Nickelodeon theme. We're going to get into this, but the version that we watched is the Toho International English dub.
Yes.
The reason that we have that one is simply because Toho has been doing a cleaning house over the years and getting rid of the original American releases. This is what we get. So
they're terrible.
Yeah, up until 1996. So Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the Japanese version, released in 71. In 72, Titan Sound, or Titra Sound, which it changed to, which had been dubbing these last few Godzilla films, came out with their English dubbed version of this, some very minor editing, mostly changing out the music. But that's what had been released and available in America up until 1996. Like I said, just cleaning house. Toho has made sure that they have their English dubs. Yeah, they're like, this is what you're going to use. Dubs. This is what you're going to be releasing. So, I want to say they're probably a little bit more tamed, although at the same time, those Titan Sound ones probably didn't make too much of a difference. At this point, Joe, we don't need to make two different commentaries. Is all
Right.
I'm saying. At the beginning,
Yes.
it was quite grueling when it was like, there's enough differences that we should make 2 commentaries, but we haven't had to for a while.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to Godzilla 1984.
So, in other words, that yes.
We'll get back to that.
Oh, that's true.
That one's got a lot. And then Godzilla 2000 is 20 minutes cut out of it. 20.
Kidding me.
Not kidding.
I wonder. I think I've only seen the American version.
I've only seen the American version as well, but the Blu-ray is available.
of the Japanese
Yeah.
version. Okay.
Okay, let's get this thing started before you spill any more facts. We gotta put it in the commentary, man. So for those of you who don't know, this is a commentary / podcast, which means that we're going to talk about it like it's a regular podcast, but
Yeah.
we're going to talk about with the movie. So if you have the movie available to you,
Watch along.
make sure you set it. I'm not going to start from the menu this time because there is a huge FBI warning that takes like 12 minutes to get through, I swear. So I'm just starting it at the 000 mark on the movie. And I'm ready to press play. Drew, are you ready for this?
Yeah, Joe.
Let's do it.
As much as I've been rambling. Last fact here. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is the Japanese version, the original one. The Titan releasing in 1972
Godzilla
was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
That's right.
The Toho International English dub, which we're watching right now, is Godzilla versus Hedorah. You know,
Okay.
just again, all that making sure it's all in line.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Godzilla versus Hedorah. That's how I always knew it. Here we go.
I'm going to press play on the 000 mark in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, Drew, so you watched this movie in junior high, is that correct?
Yeah, many times. This is definitely one of the films that I would show friends because I was just fascinated by these films, enthralled, special effects wise, story wise. Joe, I would, and I still to this day do, I play Pokemon while watching films. I play RuneScape while watching films, and you have to have white noise in the background. These movies are fantastic. White noise. It's more than white noise in that if I'm ever getting bored in grinding, you know, Pokemon, RuneScape, whatever, getting those levels up, you look up for a little bit to watch the film. It doesn't matter that you haven't been following along with it, and really, and in watching this film with you, Joe, the story is so simple. You're not going to miss a beat if you zone out for like 20 minutes because it's just going in one straight line. What we see here at the beginning, Hedorah rising out of this poo sludge.
I would say a piece of crap with eyes on it.
Does it look better?
Rises.
Does it look better than the oil-covered cow pie from Mothra vs. Godzilla?
It looks like it's made out of the same material, just had someone carve some eyes in it. So
Oh, okay.
I'd say that.
Not covered in oil, however.
This is okay. So first we see that there's sludge, and then a monster comes out of sludge, and obviously it implies that we have a monster that's been made because of human waste material.
Yeah, first half of the film, it's kind of interpreted by the audience, by me, and I assume most audience members, as we created him. Only through the course of the film do we realize
with pollution.
Yeah, it comes from somewhere else. But Joe, you mentioned the likeness of this opening to something else.
Yeah, this is the James Bond opening to the Godzilla movies. So I'm trying to like those early James Bond movies, like Thunderball and
She's
crap.
clearly topless or has a crop top on because her shoulders are bare.
The girl singing a song. She's singing though. That's the difference though. Usually they don't sing in the James Bond things. But
there are no
like
silhouettes.
all the lighting and the crazy effects going on and the 70s kind of like whooshy, I don't know, colored water coming in and out of the screen. It is
the background behind her, the psychedelic microbial bacteria.
It just screams James Bond, and it screams early 70s, late 60s.
And we've mentioned
pop movies.
we've mentioned Bond influences in a couple of films. King Kong Escapes.
That one was also a late 60s one. So
so they took cues from the films, it would appear, as such. But this is the first time we get a Bond opening. This is about as close as we get when she is completely in shadow, other than her eyes, and still singing.
And I would like to say that Drew did have this song almost memorized when we were watching this.
Like I said a dozen times, Joe. We'll get more into our opinions of it. This movie still holds up for me. I can see more through the lens of like. So I try my best, even though it is impossible, to separate your nostalgia from a critical analysis of the film and to really just thinking about the facts around the film. But it kind of got knocked down a peg a little bit. It's still up there, but it's definitely not what I thought it was. I went in with high hopes. They weren't crushed, but they were squashed just a little bit. Okay. Child actor in this film. What do you think of him, Joe? His name's Ken.
He's okay. I didn't really even notice him. He doesn't really have none of the human characters in this movie have really too much screen time for me to judge them harshly with.
No.
This is interesting though that he is playing with Godzilla toys in the Godzilla
one
movie.
Of which appears very strongly to resemble the same Godzilla toy that Ichiro, I believe was his name, was playing with in the last film. So we came to the conclusion with G-Man in Godzilla's Revenge that film is outside of the Showa timeline.
Likely, yes.
Yes, it appears so as a fan theory. That's one that I buy into. This one provides us with another conundrum that we're like, okay, he's playing with Godzilla figures. He sees Godzilla as a hero, although Godzilla really does exist in this world. And Joe, you had to point out right at the beginning of the film, as he's calling Godzilla a hero, are his parents going, yeah, but that section of the city that was destroyed,
all that stuff,
yeah, and all that killed all those people, likely some of your family members.
He's a very good role model.
No, and they have toys produced of him. So is that just like masochism in Japan?
I don't know what it is. It's so bizarre. I don't know what world this kind of existed, but true. This Godzilla movie is apart in terms of logic. In terms of I don't know.
Like I said, I'll keep saying simplicity
style.
Over and over. Yes, style for sure.
But
like I said, it's an artsy film, man.
It's simplicity in some ways because, I mean, obviously we've seen a whole bunch of monster movies in a row that had like a crap ton of monsters in it, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And now this is like this is Godzilla versus one other monster.
One brand new monster,
which is odd.
They're not playing off the same.
And simple in that way. But the movie, I got to tell you, the shooting style is not Ishiro Honda, Ishiro Honda is a much more classically sort of, is a more classical sort of director in that way. So it's different in its directing style.
Yeah.
I would say it also wears the time that it came out on its sleeve a lot more than let's say the Honda works.
Are you talking about the intro with the female?
I am so talking about the intro.
You're talking about the club scene?
I'm talking about, the club scene that's going to be coming up with the dancer.
This is a movie that is pandering to children. Perhaps not children as young as Godzilla's Revenge. Yet there's a club scene where a man's drinking and has a... what's the film with Johnny Depp? The Vegas... So Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, one of my favorite films. It harkens back to when he's looking out over the bar and everyone's lizards, but he's looking out over the bar and everyone turns into fish. It's definitely lower budget. But I was like, whoa.
That's a good comparison. I didn't even think about that.
I love Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, so seeing that now, I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay, so this scene is kind of freaky that we're watching here.
It scared me as a kid, Joe.
So the father, who's a scientist of the kid, I think he's his father anyway. They find this creepy looking tadpole thing.
Yeah, it's brought to them by a fisherman, one of their friends.
And then they see this image of the ship being destroyed by this giant looking version of the same tadpole.
Yeah.
And then he goes, the father's like, hey, wait here on the beach, son. And I'm going to go dive in and check out what's going on.
In watching the footage of the giant looking version of the tadpole the man brought them, watching that, I believe we see the first kind of like prophetic telling from whatever prophecy from Ken, because he just like foretells what's going to happen. These people in this film just need to listen to Ken. He knows what he's talking about. He steers them in the right direction, saves them often, and when they're doubting, he knows. He just knows. He has some sort of psychic connection to Godzilla. Joe, I should explain, when I say simple, I just mean in the story.
Yeah.
I mean, visuals, they're pretty...
It's much more...
They're colorful, bright,
it is different.
Psychedelic. I had to point out, especially in the middle to later part of the film, but mostly in the middle, there's so little dialogue. There is so little that people are saying. When we were I had to say that at least Godzilla is more of a character in the film, and finally, for the first time in quite a while in this series of films, Godzilla, who is in the title of all these films, is in quite a bit of the film. And he's a character in that he's in the film, but still he does not speak. so he speaks through his body language. It's strange, and
language.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the body language he uses. Okay, right now, the scene that Joe is describing. Okay, Ken cuts the Hedorah tadpole as it jumps over him. For some reason,
gigantic tadpole that jumps over him and then somehow jumps back into the ocean, which is the worst continuity error in this entire movie.
Is it as bad as the as the Son of Godzilla continuity error when he's looking down? Godzilla's looking down at the orifice from Spiga Kumonga.
No, it's worse than that actually. But you could just like pretend that Godzilla was actually moving forward in those. But this one, the creature is jumping over
out of the ocean onto the land,
like towards his face.
Over Ken, yes,
and he's facing the ocean. He slimes the knife in him, and he like guts him almost. Yeah. And then he looks away, and the next shot that he's back in the water and he's going the opposite direction.
That's kind of our first instance when we get the inkling that Hedorah isn't any sort of a tadpole, because say he had just cut him, guts would have been spilling out, man. But he's just going through the water like it's nothing. Okay, my defense of this film and that scene, the weird continuity error, is that he was so shocked that we're seeing a time lapse where he was in shock, and and the tadpole crawled back into the ocean. Interesting effects work on how they splice together that Ken's father, Dr. Yano, something like that, the scientist, his father, is under the water being chased down by the tadpole Hedorah form, and it's obviously not underwater, but they use lighting in such a way that it looks like he's underwater. So
it also looks like he was killed, and then the sun's just standing there on the beach.
That's why the scene always scared me.
Whoa.
Even as I would have been somewhere between 12 and 14, it didn't scare me, but it definitely tensed me up. Ugh. Your chest was tight, and something about the fact alone. I had to note that there isn't there isn't any song playing during this. It's quiet. And he's waiting for his dad. It's good child acting. I think it is, because he's yelling out to the ocean. His dad's under the water. He can't hear him, but he's yelling out in desperation, "Papa!" Whew.
Yeah, it's a freaky scene. And I would like having just watched the movie that we just watched before.
Godzilla's Revenge.
Godzilla's Revenge. And now that we're on to this 11th Godzilla movie, I believe it's the 11th one.
Yep.
It's a total shift. And the first thing I noticed, the first shot, Drew, and I didn't look up anything before this movie. I didn't know that Ishiro Honda didn't direct it. So the first shot that I saw, when the camera was on a dolly and it was spinning around the kid as he was playing with the toys, which I believe is the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah.
That's not part of the music video.
Past the music video beginning.
I was like, this isn't directed by Ishiro Honda, is it? And Drew goes, nope. And I was like, yep, I could tell. You could just tell there's something way different going on with this movie outside of the time that it's in. And the darkness of the scene that we just saw, it's a kid's movie enough that the father is fine. I mean, he's kind of scarred up and stuff, because every time you touch this mutant thing, you get kind of hurt by it. I mean, it's enough of a kid's movie that he's okay, but throughout the rest of the movie, in fact, there are going to be legitimate deaths, and multiple. I mean, we've had a few in the last few movies, ones that surprised me still because they were kids' movies.
Yeah.
But this one is especially crazy. You want to explain what's going on?
I was going to say the deaths are glossed over. Okay. We're getting weirdness. That's all I can say. There are cartoon segments in the film. They're painted, but it's kind of a transition between. Okay, so we're not shown actual film-wise what Hedorah is doing under the water. Rather, they cut to a cartoon version of Hedorah, and again, with the weird symbolism and just the strangeness of this film. Yeah, you see how Hedorah is growing from one form to another. So it's kind of like, again, with just so little that we have to do with the characters and the human development, it focuses more on the alien development of this creature, Hedorah. Joe, I had to point out, I haven't really been around the ocean in my lifetime. I'm from Utah. Lived in Utah most of my life. But it's so still right here. Do you think it's that way in like bays or otherwise? Because the ocean is not that still.
No, it's not that still. Not where I've been.
Yeah, me neither. And I would think that in the history of the ocean on the Earth, in the history of our planet, the ocean has never been that still.
Are you saying that it looks like a studio?
I'm saying that it looks like a studio. In certain shots of this, I want to say just this gross overuse of
there's
pollution.
A lot of pollution shots.
It's just like and they go on for quite a while. Yep. In one of the shots, and I believe now what we're watching is, like I said, Ken's prophecies. Ken is dreaming of Godzilla watching this pollution creep out into the ocean.
Oh, that's right.
And it's that Godzilla. We're kind of getting this weird narration by Ken that it's disturbing Godzilla. He's getting ticked that we are polluting the ocean so badly. You can see here, Joe, for just a moment, the pollution is so obviously set on like a sheet or something. It's kind of like a white sheet that they're probably towing across the pool, the tank that they have in the studio. And then Godzilla, I gotta say, this is a great shot though. Godzilla is in the background, and we have our pollution coming at him in the foreground. Godzilla is using his atomic breath, which is a painting of his atomic breath, the blue beam, but they have this set up so that every time he uses the beam, different sections of the pollution explode into flame, and you're viewing Godzilla through the fire and the smoke. Oh, wow. There's a reason that
it's a well-timed shot.
There's a reason that visually I just loved this and tried this among other films, like going off topic just for a moment, but like The Evil Dead and things. I have just put them on with friends around, and whether they wanted to watch it or not, we're watching it because these movies are cool. Because I'd talk to them about it forever, but they wouldn't want to watch it. Anyway.
I have to point out Godzilla's entrance. So Godzilla's first entrance into this movie, obviously we see the pollution. This is just from a couple minutes ago. See the pollution, and then we see this like huge picture of the sun, which is obviously projection. Like, we know how it was done, but it's still such a cool shot. And Godzilla just raises his head.
That's how it
up
ends
into the
too,
image.
Joe. I hadn't remembered that's how it began, but our final shots of Godzilla are the same, with the sun probably setting at that point. No, I just had forgotten that's how it began, but you go on.
Anyway, I just thought it was it was a cool way to introduce Godzilla. I don't think he's been introduced that sort of godly way so far in the series. My other favorite probably introduction of Godzilla, I believe it was Ibira, where they were looking down into the pit and they just saw his eye. His eye opens up and it's really freaky. That's another favorite one of mine. But that's a really cool intro.
In Ibira?
Yeah.
Eye opening up?
When they're looking down into the pit, Godzilla's in the pit.
Oh yes, okay, that shot. I was thinking you were talking about Ibira and his eye opening up.
No.
So in other words,
it's in that movie.
You were thinking about King Kong. I mean, no, Godzilla. It was
Godzilla
King
in Kong. Ibira, Horror of the Deep.
Yeah, who replaced King Kong?
Yes.
So they used a great shot that I'm sure was for King Kong.
For King Kong, yeah.
But
they probably like storyboarded and everything.
Yeah, and then they're like, yeah, let's just make Godzilla.
Something weird about this is like if you take the moisture away from the creature, it dies.
It turns to carbon.
Yeah, it turns.
It's kind of like a piece of coal.
But then it like if you put it in water, it like relives.
Yes, this is so still very early on in the film. We're only nearly 20 minutes in, and we're finding out more about the nature of the creature. I like the focus on the monsters. Oh man, it's up for debate as fans, and it's up for debate as film critics in general. I don't think that too many film critics who aren't fans of these films are going to get that deep into it
or watch it at all. But yeah,
what's the right mixture of human story to character to monster? And they have to intertwine, that's for sure.
Yeah,
like our main characters have to intertwine with the monster. But like there is virtually no characterization in this film, no fleshing out of the characters. Ken has parents. One is a scientist. His mother is motherly.
Figures out what's going on with it.
Yeah, so that definitely drives the plot. But really, like, man, Ken, he is just a wonder boy.
The
of
army
this film.
guys put up the big sheets of electric stuff.
I wanted to say, Joe, we're going to get to that, but just that you mentioned the army men, did you realize? I just thinking about this film directly after watching it. there was no gratuitous army setup in this film. We didn't see shots of military flooding in. And I was like, whoa, that's the first for a while.
I mean, the military comes in, but honestly, I don't remember them coming
there.
In. Oh, really?
Yeah. And so it was like, because I'm going to keep referring back to G-Man. This film was the second film produced for this children's festival over in Japan. So these ones are shorter, so they're streamlined specifically for this festival. And actually, there's quite a cool picture on Wikipedia. I'm presuming it's around the festival, could have been at it. I got to show you, Joe, and we'll describe it to the audience. But they did a mock battle between Hedorah and Godzilla.
Just like
and
live?
I had the suit actors. Yeah, live.
No way.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was getting off on a tangent there, so I don't remember what I was going into, but it's that these films definitively, we keep saying they're getting geared towards children. Geared towards children.
I don't think I think the director doesn't agree either. Though they were getting more and more towards children, but for this movie, it got dark.
Man, but okay, this movie was hard to research for. That's why thus far we've included less facts and more opinion.
I got some more stuff for you, though. Okay, I got some stuff on the director and what he thought of this movie.
Is kind of an all-encompassing little statement here that I've found. It says that there are differing accounts on who came up with the movie's anti-pollution message and dark imagery. Director Yoshimitsu Banno, I'll keep saying Banno because he is the director of this film, says it was him who came up with the movie's anti-pollution message and dark imagery, as he wanted to make Godzilla series relevant again by inserting social commentary into the story. Special effects director Teruyoshi Nakano, we've talked about Nakano before on this podcast, on the other hand, claimed that Banno was trying to make the movie appeal to kids, and that the anti-pollution message and the darker scenes were his ideas. So
we're coming to the weirdest scene in any Godzilla movie ever.
Who is this character, Joe? What is his relation to the boy's family?
I don't know, because he disappears halfway through the movie. So.
Well, he gets killed.
Yeah, I know. He disappears.
Yes, he disappears, but we see him die.
I think the kid's just hanging out with the girl and him, and he's looking up at the girl in the bar. Guys, if you've never watched this movie, okay.
It is weird.
There's a weird hippie dance thing going on.
It's not clear whether she's actually singing or not.
Either singing or lip syncing perfectly with the song that's playing. She's wearing like a peach colored, so it matches her skin, like a flesh suit with like these weird sea patterns on it. And in the background, there's like this throbbing projection of blood and semen pulsing in this very weird 60s.
An entire wall of reflective mirrors behind her.
Baby dropping some acid would help the experience of watching this movie.
He obviously had something spike in his drink, because when he looks back and everybody's fish. But anyway, Hedorah makes landfall at nighttime. Oh man, and I forget about the blood imagery and the skeletons. If you're not watching this, if you've never seen this and you're a Godzilla fan, just go out and watch it.
Watch it, because it's just so weird.
It was toned down for me because of the frequent viewings of it. I forgot how weird it was. But Joe, all right.
We just saw 10 movies in a row that went from like really depressed and dark, kind of serious monster
movie. Yeah.
And then we had
Rush
some
sequel.
a Rush sequel, and then some Versus movies, and then they got more and more childlike movies, and now we're seeing this.
Darkness is inserted into.
He is smoking from the smokestack. So
and I have to say, this is one of my favorite special effects of the film, is that Hedorah, in his very first landfall, so he becomes a amphibian type creature, and that he's able to crawl onto land. He's kind of a lighter gray. It's hard to tell. He's a like slight greenish hue, not his regular dark gray form at the end, but I enjoy more than the actual suit and the amphibian creature were shown. I enjoy the drawings that they use, the military, or maybe it's the scientists later, to describe what's happening with Hedorah, because that version of Hedorah looks cool. He's kind of fishy, but with like claws that's crawling up these smokestacks. The effect of Hedorah, though, the suit actor, just encompassing the smokestack and like consuming all the smoke, and then Godzilla has come. Godzilla uses his atomic breath through the darkness to light up the ocean, and Hedorah's eyes immediately go from just being unlit and white to bright red.
Oh,
so he's obviously alert.
Something big to fight against.
That's how we see.
That's what he's thinking.
And then, Joe, does this remind you of anything? That's his entry music. Every single time he comes in, there's this very strange kind of comical musical cue that cues the audience that Godzilla's entering the scene. Aside from the opening of that musical cue, it kind of harkens back to Godzilla's original theme, only slightly. Maybe I'm hearing that wrong.
Not even, man. The music is so weird in this movie. It's almost as odd as the not Ifukube music from the previous 10 films. So there was a couple movies in there that had the other composer, the guy who worked with Kurosawa a lot, the Raids Again music. It's so, because the Godzilla themes from Ifukube are so like iconic, it's weird. As a Godzilla fan, watching these 30 movies later, it is weird seeing Godzilla movies without that music in it.
So who scored it was Riichiro Manabe. He was a Japanese composer. He wrote scores for numerous science fiction, horror, and kaiju films, drawing from jazz and dissonant modernism.
Modernism is how I would describe this music.
His scores, particularly the ones he is most famous for in the 1970s, this movie being released in 71, utilized electric guitar, pipe organ, the piccolo, keyboard synthesizer, and the vibra slap heavily.
Is that what he used?
I just had to like choke that one down.
Like
the vibra slap.
It looks like he made movies up until 1980. So
but that is the one we keep calling this film dark, and it is.
But the music is the opposite side.
It's one of the only aspects of the film that makes you. Okay, as an audience
and the Godzilla space child thing going through the air, later on in the movie.
Previously, such as in Astro Monster, I wanted to say that there was... This shot's horrific. So there are some men, presumably businessmen, not returning home after work, and they're gambling, drinking, and just some home is what it looks like.
Sludge comes through and it kills them all.
It's so strange that nobody's alerted that Hedorah or Godzilla have made landfall, although they're within... So they have to be just on the outskirts of this industrial area, which Hedorah and Godzilla are fighting in, and there's this club. Then there were those Japanese businessmen. The club has yet to be affected by Hedorah's presence. Those men were killed. They see a small amount of sludge hit their window, and they're like, huh? And moments later, a huge portion of Hedorah flies through the window, breaking it. And we see a shot of these men's mangled faces and limbs protruding out of just
Kids movie. Okay, what were you saying about the music earlier?
It's strange because
it's weird.
In Astro Monster, with the whole... There's Martin Luther King right there, Joe. Is that not strange?
No, it's not really strange.
In any other Godzilla film, it would be noteworthy, but in this film, it's already so strange.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a picture on the wall. So the aspect of the music being so different... tonally, is that it's different parts of the film. You can pick out music, the acting, the cinematography. Those are all different aspects that make up one film. All those aspects minus the score are dark. Then you have the music, and so you're like, as an audience member, I don't know how to feel. Like visually, we just saw a cat that
covered in the sludge that just killed the dudes, and he's like, meow.
I read later
just
that
left there.
For some reason, that's supposed to tie into the story that it didn't kill the cat. I don't remember how. It's weird because it's that Hedorah eats pollution, not living beings. It's just so happens that his what he emits later, the sulfuric acid, kills people. So he's not eating people, but again, with us creating him. Even though he's from an alien planet, however he came down, he doesn't kill us directly. We're still killing ourselves because it's his emissions that are killing us.
Okay, you got to tell me your opinion on both the Godzilla suit in this movie and the Hedorah suit.
I love the Godzilla suit. I love it.
Is Prime Godzilla for you?
It is, and not just nostalgia-wise. This is the best... I mean, I'm talking about this movie and the movies... probably about going 2 or 3 movies forward, and at least definitely the last 2. Godzilla looks awesome. This is prime Showa Godzilla. To me, they've perfected him to the point where the actor is movable, so he can do fighting. He can, especially in this movie, as we've already stated, emote through his body language. So we know non-verbally how Godzilla feels. They're kind of taunting each other at this point before they fight. And his face looks good. That's one of the most important aspects of Godzilla.
Yeah, his face not looking crazy.
He has to have a good face. I wish that I could pull up a picture, though, Joe, and we probably could.
Throw it into the ears of the podcast listeners.
Now, for you and for us to discuss, and the podcast listeners certainly can. You remember King Kong versus Godzilla?
The Godzilla head was way different.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I think it was good, but it was just different. Yeah.
It's more in terms of like Godzilla 2000, that era Godzilla,
more
where
triangular.
Sharper.
Yeah.
This Godzilla has a rounded snout, but at least it protrudes. At least he has like a lizard-like, I don't know if it's snout or beak on a lizard, but unlike, I almost don't even want to mention it, but the son of Godzilla, where he has no lizard feature. He's almost like this horrific-looking mashup of a human face and Godzilla's face. You know those horrible apps that merge two people's faces?
Yeah, sure.
It's like you took any human face, merged it with Godzilla, because they were trying to make him look human.
Honestly, I think that the Mothra vs. Godzilla suit is probably one of more of the movies we watched in a row here.
Yeah.
I think it's a preference of mine, but maybe because I saw that movie a ton. So
and that
Godzilla's in my head like a lot.
It may be a nostalgia for me as well that's informing me this is the best Godzilla. In any case, we're mostly exposed to this Godzilla due to this large chunk of the Showa era where we get this Godzilla. His body, the bodysuit really doesn't change. He's always has this like large spine along the front of the suit, which for some reason does not disturb me as much as in some prior ones. I think it's also about the texture of his skin, because they're doing it correctly. Godzilla's skin texture is hearkening way back to 54 when it's supposed to be, I don't know what this is, but it's keloid scars. It's supposed to represent the scarring of nuclear fallout victims. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So they just get the texture right. It doesn't look like, unfortunately, in Ebirah, I said that it looked like it was a onesie. For some reason, it's just so baggy that when he's moving around, the amount of skin between his arms and the body,
he lost
and
some weight.
So his skin was but like, as we're seeing, Ebirah has now fled into the ocean. Godzilla very easily defeats Hedorah in his first landfall. Hedorah is not fully powered at this point. He hasn't grown enough from his pollution. One thing that adds to Godzilla in this film is the brilliant drawing on Godzilla for his atomic breath. I think that it also helps that Godzilla uses his atomic breath so much in this film.
You like that?
Oh, yes.
All right.
I don't think that personally, for me, I don't think there can ever be an overuse of his atomic breath. Not that I've... it depends on his opponent, but...
I definitely like the way that they use it in the most recent American Godzilla movie, where they kind of had
2014.
it as like
the finale.
It was sort of a tantric sex situation where you gotta hold out, and then like suddenly it got amazing because they use it in the right spot. So I actually think like dramatically, other filmmakers have figured out how to use the atomic breath a little better.
Yeah,
and even Ishiro Honda, I think he used it more sparingly in that first one. Probably because of the effect. Honestly,
certainly in the last few, he's definitely used it more conservatively. We just don't see him use it as atomic breath much.
But those ones also, he's not trying to kill as much as he is in this one.
True.
Or the ones previously for a little while. I do like the Godzilla suit. It's not one of my all-time favorites, but I do like the Godzilla suit.
Yeah.
I'd rather like it than not like it, because there are suits that I don't like.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's a good standard Godzilla suit. I do think, however, that Hedorah can be cool sometimes and can be a problem sometimes. So unfortunately, Hedorah looks like a tattered blanket, which is probably like a tattered blanket like sprayed with plastic, which is probably what he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes he looks that way, especially when he moves. Now, there is a human in the suit, and the reason we know that is because there are some not so... Maybe they should have cut 3 frames before.
Yeah.
Because we do see, like, legitimate human limb movements within the Hedorah suit that just don't work that well. On top of that, I think that now Godzilla is not the most realistic creature in the world as far as kaiju movies, but his skin texture and his eyes,
they did good eyes in this film.
I mean, they're good, but they seem like they're from another movie. They seem so, I don't know, the texture is just different. It just, in this world, it just seems a little bit too rounded, a little bit too smooth, a little bit.
He's definitely,
in my opinion,
he's definitely your kid's Godzilla. For me, this Godzilla is the perfect mashup of Godzilla for kids, but still appealing to me as an adult fan. This is just, all right, so Hedorah, they're kind of figuring out how to destroy Hedorah. He can't be chopped up, obviously. Ken cut him. Godzilla just tried to hit him with his atomic breath, affecting him, certainly, slowing him down, but not destroying him. And as if it wasn't clear enough before, that when the tadpole that had been brought to Ken's father, the scientist, had been left out to dry, and it became just like charcoal, they know that you have to dry out Hedorah. That's the way to defeat him, and then never, ever, ever expose him to water again, or it'll also come back to life. But Joe, it's kind of important because I missed those 12 times watching it grow up. When they're looking through the microscope here in Ken's father's lab, he has a sample on the on his little microscope that he calls Hedrium. He mentions that it comes from Hedorah's eye. So for some reason, this is just fan theorizing. I mean, it's not stated completely explicitly in the film, although it kind of is. This is, to a point. He says that Hedrium comes from Hedorah's eyes. So it's not like all of Hedorah is made of Hedrium. This is just a thing that I'm saying, because you remember Godzilla at the end lifting up those eyeballs and making sure those are...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that kid's movie part where he goes through the back of his skull and plucks out his eyeballs out from behind.
His
and then his
eyeballs. Joe, so here we go.
It's disgusting. The bowling balls.
Over the decades, fans have kept wondering what the strange orbs that Godzilla rips out of Hedorah's dried out body actually are.
Are they not his eyeballs?
They're pretty clear to us that it's his eyeballs. You have to think, and this is pointed out through reading up on the film, there's a lot of eye injuries in the film, not just for Godzilla and Hedorah, but you know what happens to the scientist? His eyeballs his eyeballs burn.
Set up and payoff, man.
Yeah.
That's good screenwriting right there.
Very oddly shadowy, alluding to a lot of eyes. There's a lot of... But anyway, most think that the eye...
notice that. That's good.
Most think that they are either eggs or his eyes, and there's a common joke that they are his testicles. According to the director, those are meant to be Hedorah's eyes, which he considered the most important part of a person's body. The movie also had a running themes of eyes being injured, as to go on with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think that there is I think it's pretty obvious to me.
What do you have, Joe, on this film?
I got a few things. So the story we've heard, and you say there's contradictions about it. I didn't read anything like
it's that. It's just contradictions of what happened behind the scenes.
So Bono, not the musician, but the director, Banno in English.
I just say Banno, man, or I'm going to keep thinking Banno. You too.
Bono. He apparently conceived the idea for Godzilla vs. Hedorah after seeing some cities in black smog, basically, in Japan. He saw some bad pollution, thought of a Godzilla movie.
But I keep reading that, and then it contradicts in other places. Yeah.
And it was the first movie in a while not to use stock footage.
Yeah,
which is refreshing to say the least, since the last movie.
And interesting because of the huge budget cut for this film. The choice behind the scenes to not use stock footage. Just you'll go on in a second, Joe. But I love this shot. I love this kind of scene where he sees Godzilla
on the roller coaster ride. Yeah,
it's a strange blob of black because it's in the daytime and Godzilla is completely black. Our prophet seer and Ken just knows where Godzilla is. So I love that shot as a kid. But
Bono is his name is Bono Yoshimitsu. Mm-hmm. He studied at Toho under some pretty famous names back then.
Yeah.
And in 1970, Toho was basically ready to promote him as a full-time director. So he's an assistant director for a while on like some pretty legit projects, including some Kurosawa, of course.
Yeah.
We have here Throne of Blood, The Lower Depths, Hidden Fortress, and The Bad Sleep Well. Those are 4 fantastic Kurosawa movies.
Yeah.
Irresponsible Age of Japan, The Irresponsible Guise of Japan. And then it has some other movies that I've never heard of and don't really have any information on. But then, yeah, Toho was like, okay, so... In Toho's system, you went from assistant director to director. That's what I'm finding out doing these movies, which
that's
is
kind of the way it
odd.
worked at Toho.
It's definitely not that way here in the States. That way.
Just before you go on, at least in the promotional for this film, they threw out Bano's name in promotion for this film, from the promising new director, Bano.
Yeah, so he had actually done, according to the internet, he had done a movie.
Reliable.
He had done a movie before this movie.
Okay.
He's only ever directed 2 movies, if that's the case. This movie and a movie called Birth of the Japanese Islands, which there's almost no information of on the English language internet.
I was going to say, it wasn't clear to me.
Tells a story of Japan's history. It's directed by him, and it was shown at the 1970 Japan Expo. It could have been a short film.
Okay.
Because Bono himself says this was his first movie. So this Godzilla vs. Hedorah was his first movie. So I'm getting conflicting accounts, but that was likely probably a short film.
Well, Bano being stricken from Toho.
And this is what I found on this Sci-Fi TV Japan YouTube channel.
Okay.
He was interviewed for Godzilla 2014, which
he was
believe it or not,
executive producer on.
He was a co-executive producer on Godzilla, the 2014 Legendary Pictures Godzilla movie.
Gareth Edwards.
And he said that what was happening before he was put on the job for Hedorah was that Godzilla was actually put on hold for a short time, and that's why there's a 2-year gap between the 2 movies, this one and the last one, which is unusual because they were making one movie a year, sometimes even more than that.
Yeah. At one
he said it was put on hold and got more and more childish as the audience was shrinking, and he decided, being put in front of a Godzilla movie, that he wanted to make a movie that adults would also somewhat enjoy.
Yes.
So that was his idea in making this a dark Godzilla movie. So I don't know if this was as geared for kids as you've been saying, Drew.
Well,
I think this was definitely a guy who was like, let's correct this.
Yeah, course correct Godzilla.
Let's course correct Godzilla. And some people, I'm sure a lot of people don't think they course corrected very much, considering what I've read.
Very well.
Or very well. But that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to make it a movie that adults could also enjoy as they're dragged to the theater with their children. It was his first time as a director, is what he said in the thing. So I'm assuming the other movie was a short film. And he was given 35 days to shoot both the drama and effects scenes, which is pretty short.
One team for both drama and effects. Ridiculous.
It was
ridiculous.
It was pretty short, and he said he got half the budget that the previous movies had gotten, which in today's money, and I'm not sure kind of how
currency exchange, inflation,
inflation work. According to the website, it's $250,000 US is how much it was made for.
That is just
which
pennies.
Wasn't even a US film back in the early 70s. I think The Godfather was $8 million. Or it was like $4 to $8 million. It was somewhere in there. So think about that. And this is a big effects movie, right?
Yeah.
And Godfather is not. So he was given that, and then
Ken just viewed human skeletal remains.
Yeah, that happens a lot in this movie. There's a lot of violence.
A lot of death. Yeah, go on.
He did a rough cut with
Honda's
for them, and then he showed it to Honda and Tanaka, the producer, and
I wasn't aware
he asked for more days and more money, and they gave it to him.
Okay.
So he actually got more than the 35 days.
I knew that he had shown it to Honda. I did not know Tanaka. It's unclear during the filming of this movie, but certainly Tanaka, after its release, was in the hospital. I don't know how long Tanaka had been hospitalized during the production of it. And that's when Tanaka viewed the movie or heard the reception of the movie not favorably.
No, he
Tanaka,
said you
not a
ruined
fan.
Godzilla.
Yeah, and this is again where
This is after Godzilla's
where
revenge.
the
Let's keep that in
contradictory
mind.
stories we're reading about come into play because Bana himself, who obviously has an interest in downplaying Tanaka's anger in any case, the facts are Bana was forbidden to direct films in Toho after this. He was bumped down to producer, I believe, or what was he bumped down to, Joe?
I don't think obviously he's an executive producer now, so he wasn't bumped down, but he's not directing.
He's not directing anything.
He was
Tanaka
still assistant directing. I see more credits.
Something like I'm reading that Tanaka vowed that within his time, Bana would not ever direct another Godzilla film, going so far as saying that he ruined Godzilla.
Yeah.
But the contradictory is the amount.
I don't agree with Tanaka at all.
Yeah, no, I don't either, actually. Certainly, as you said, a course correction, vast different. I wanted to say, Joe, personal opinion on this film is that, but I don't think this is true. I thought we could maybe use it as a measuring stick for whether Godzilla fans are gonna like movies which veer more towards into the weird or the like. I know that no Godzilla film is ever going to be played straight and normal.
We got 4 of those, so that's not true. But
okay,
but not very often.
Not very often. Definitely not in the majority of these 31 or 2 films at this point.
It's more
but I wanted to say that we could use this movie as a measuring stick, watch it as a Godzilla fan, and find out whether you like the strangeness or the more like straight played Godzilla films with just more normal. But I don't think it's weird enough in that respect to divide fans to find out. Joe, Bana was given harsh treatment by Tanaka.
I've read that too.
The amount of anger coming from Tanaka at Bana is the contradictory statement I keep hearing. Again, Tanaka downplayed his negative reception of it, saying that obviously he did not like it. And that seems to be a fact at this point, that he said he ruined Godzilla, but some sources are saying that he just was infuriated. And other ones, he was pissed, but he wasn't like outraged.
Okay. I got first of all, I totally disagree with Tanaka on that because I do think this is a way better movie than the last one we watched. But
a refreshing take on Godzilla.
It is refreshing to say the least. I got another story on the behind the scenes stuff.
All right, I want to hear it.
And this is from the suit actor, and I just read this.
Nakajima?
The suit actor who played Hedorah.
Okay.
His name was Kenpachiro Satsuma, and I know I'm butchering that name.
He's going to go on to play Godzilla.
Is he?
Throughout the Heisei period.
Yeah. This is a crazy story. He was struck with appendicitis during the production.
Yes.
And doctors were forced to perform the appendectomy while he was still wearing the Hedorah suit. And he found out that day that painkillers do not work on him.
What a story. He's in a... Okay.
It's the worst suit to be in anything.
The worst. We thought that Rodan's suit was bad in that Nakajima, who always plays Godzilla, was Rodan, and in the Rodan standalone movie... We thought that suit was bad, especially when it was filled with water after plunging into the water and coming out, him injuring his ankles. Okay, this suit, I'm reading things that it's anywhere between 200 to 300 pounds, the suit. So although the, what's his name, Joe? The suit actor for Hedorah? It's a really long, complicated word.
Complicated. There we go.
But,
Kenpachiro Satsuma. Kenpachiro Satsuma.
Satsuma.
Most American way I could say that.
Although Satsuma was small in stature, he was very sturdy. That's what I'm reading. And so he was... well suited to play Hedorah in that this suit was a heavy suit. This was like, it's no wonder in his final form in the final fight sequence of Godzilla versus Hedorah at the end there, as they're luring him towards the 2 electromagnetic, trying to dry him out. He's not moving very much. Hedorah kind of just shuffles along. It's because it's so heavy. there are wires that are holding up parts of the suit in order to allow the actor to move around. Wow. As you were saying, Joe, the cloth-like appearance of Hedorah, we're looking at the back of the DVD, which features Hedorah in all of his glory, in his final form. But for me, because I watched it when I was younger, and it's easier for me to disassociate myself with the reality of the film. Sure. What they're trying to represent with the ripped cloth is like sludge kind of just dripping down, you know? Yeah. So they're doing it to the best of their ability. It's like silver coated cloth, but all I have to do is kind of take myself out of actually viewing it, which is impossible at my age. But then thinking what they're trying to represent at my old age, at my cynical age,
20s,
mid-20s, but trying to think of what they're representing with the suit, not so much what the suit actually is on film.
Sure,
but
I get what you're saying.
Because ambition and weirdness and
ambition with a very small budget.
It's just like a micro budget. It's a shoestring budget.
Did you hear that he tried to make a sequel to this movie?
Absolutely, and we're gonna get one of the coolest.
What do you got on that?
Okay, well, we can collaborate here, but Godzilla 3D to the Max was one of the working titles of this 40-minute, I believe it's about 44 minutes purportedly, Godzilla film.
He was trying to get funding to create this.
He did acquire the rights to it, to Godzilla at the time, and actually we have Bano to thank, if not entirely, but certainly for a bulk of why we have the 2014 Godzilla. He was bidding, although he owned the rights to Godzilla at that point, to make a sequel, and it's kind of... Okay, before I get back to what I'm saying, I'm going to rewind back to this film. Directly following this film, Bano had a plan to make Godzilla vs. Hedorah 2.
Right.
Reports that we keep reading about, again, so much contradictory information on this film, is that it was supposed to take place in Africa. Okay, Bano in 2014 interviews denied saying that it was supposed to take place in Africa, and he denied some other small things regarding the details of Hedorah 2. But in any case, he wanted to make Hedorah 2, as is made very clear at the end of this film, when all we're shown is the exact same shot, as it starts out with Hedorah popping up, just his eyes through the sludge, and then it says something like, to be continued, or no, it says another one. It's some DJ Khaled references there.
Okay.
But then fast forward again to what I was talking about. 2014, Bano has acquired the rights from Toho to make a Godzilla film. He's pitching it towards Legendary, and it's some form, confluence of events. Toho, Legendary, Bano himself opted, instead of making this Godzilla 3D to the Max thing. Goodness, that never got made. That sounds horrible. And for a 40-minute film, Joe, that's not a film, is it?
It's a short film.
That's a short film. Yeah. It's a long short, right?
It's the reason. Okay,
a film is double that length.
The WGA. I think it needs to be 90 pages, which is an hour and a half, because it's a minute a page on scripts. The Academy,
unless it's like an action film,
like the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, constitutes a short film under 40 minutes and a feature length over.
What if it is?
And most film festivals...
So there is no long short?
In most film festivals are where you're going to have that problem. So film festivals will short films, and they'll be like, it has to be under 8 minutes, or it has to be under 20 minutes. And there's like certain categories for that. So that's where it actually matters, is in the where you're going to show it. But if it's a 40-minute Godzilla movie that you're going to just put in IMAX as like, let's go see the IMAX experience of this Godzilla film, it doesn't really matter that it's 40 minutes. And I don't think, especially like you could probably go, we have this place called Thanksgiving Point here in Utah, and it's like this big place that used to have the biggest screen in the state that was called the Mammoth Screen Theater, and it would show all those specialty IMAX films.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were short films, and you would just go because of the experience of watching just a gigantic screen.
A screen that you have to crank your neck, you're so close to like to view the whole screen.
Yeah.
I watched a few documentaries on that screen. It's larger than IMAX.
There was a roller coaster documentary that was short that scared the crap out of me.
I watched. Okay, we're getting sidetracked for just a moment here, but I think this is okay.
It's too big.
It is. As a kid, I viewed an Alaskan expedition film on there, and it went from, okay, I was gripping the arms of my seat. It went from a shot of a helicopter, so they were shooting in the helicopter, going over this cliff, and you're just feeling like you're there because it's so large, going pretty rapidly over the cliff, and I'm like, oh, being a little afraid of heights at that point as a youngerish child.
Still,
and then it just quick cut to Eskimos running straight at the camera, and I remember jumping out of my seat and my heart just like in my throat.
Get away!
Anyway, I think it could have worked. It's wild fan speculation at this point.
I'm glad we got the movie we did get.
Oh yes,
out of the Gareth Edwards stuff that we got. By the way, luckiest filmmaker on the planet, which we'll talk about.
Oh, certainly when we get to that film. But what is important in what we know of Godzilla 3D to the max, which is what Yoshimitsu Banno was pitching, but ended up not doing, thank goodness. And I keep saying thank goodness, but who knows? We'll never know. It was supposed to be pretty much a spiritual sequel to Hedorah. Okay, here's the important part. A new monster named Deathla.
Deathla, yeah. I remember,
just Deathla, Joe. What do you think of that name?
It's awesome.
It's awesome, yeah. I mean, I'm just fanboying out just thinking about Deathla.
A new band that I'm going to be creating here. Deathla, yep. That is definitely a death metal band.
I would think so.
It couldn't be anything else.
A band named Death, and there is one. A new monster named Deathla appears and awakens Godzilla from hibernation to the Igutsu. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I want to see Deathla's description. Where is it?
I'm not sure.
I'm looking at it. It was right here. Basically, what I remember reading of Deathla's description is that Deathla would have been very similar to Hedorah in appearance, obviously. Something like he was red.
It's like Hedorah 2.0.
Yeah. He was an updated version of Hedorah. He was red, going to be red, have like a skull in the features of the creature, and I imagine around the skull and the body would be dripping like Hedorah, although unlike Hedorah actually look like dripping like sludge. So, but I do enjoy the effect, Joe, of making Hedorah look wet. You know how he's all sparkly? We're seeing here in these long shots of Hedorah, where he's really like his whole body is in frame. This is kind of them squaring off. I believe, nope, they haven't all been killed yet. All right, we've been skipping over the story here.
Yeah. So
what happens is that the youth of Japan have decided to band together because as Hedorah grows, and we've seen more of these cartoon sequences, Chris Jappert, I'm not fully agreeing with you when you were saying you didn't. Okay, Joe, we have to talk about it.
You got to finish the thought, Drew. Chris Jappert. Oh,
see, there was a continuity problem there.
There was. Anyway, okay.
Chris Jappert, I'm not fully agreeing with your dislike of the cartoon segments. It's strange, but I enjoy them.
Yeah, he was on our
it takes me.
episode.
Yeah, go back and listen to that patron that beat me at Godzilla Trivia. Horribly shameful.
I like the cartoon stuff. In fact, I like all the stylistic choices except for one with this director.
Oh, I think I know what you're gonna say.
Besides the continuity, but my biggest problem.
We're talking about jet-propelled Godzilla.
No.
Oh,
I'm actually that's just part of the movie. I'm talking about like his stylistic sort of choices here.
I'm highly interested in hearing this. Jim.
I dig the weird imagery. Like we had a scene earlier where like a whole bunch of TVs were put in TV screens were put in a row, kind of like in a
store shop window.
The newest thing you would think is like Matrix Reloaded, where he goes in the room and there's a whole bunch of TVs with a whole bunch of different images. Only this time it's like a whole bunch of Godzilla sort of stuff. People talk about Hedorah and stuff like that.
It's like The Architect or something like that.
Yeah, and it's just a really weird, cool image and like all these weird sort of late 60s images and the hippies, and
it's representing people's differing opinions.
The way
on what
that the movie is cut together is really energetic, and it's really like, oh, hey, all of a sudden we're going to take an Oliver Stone sort of idea here, and we're just going to switch formats to be in a cartoon for a little bit, and I dig that. And I dig his
too.
experimenting with it. I don't think that Tanaka really enjoyed the fact that he was experimenting on Godzilla.
Well,
as opposed to like, some other movie.
As certainly shown by Tanaka using Honda to like review the film with Bano before its release.
I got an issue with some of the movies in the Showa era. Some of them, not all of them. And I like Jun Fukuda's sort of way he handles the monsters, but the way.
So you're talking about like Abira.
The way that Bano handles shooting the monsters. It's either Bono or the effects guy, either one, whoever directed the monster scenes.
Well, there is one team working on both the drama and the effects.
Well, then that would be him then.
Okay.
Whenever they just don't really carry any weight or any scale with the monsters, and that's something that has been bugging me for the last few movies, is that they've slowly gone from having the cameras look up towards the monster and like giving them a sense of scale and a sense of hugeness and a sense of weight that is still hard to get on the suit, but at least they try to do that. Or they have buildings around them or something that's in the way that really makes you go, okay, that's how big this monster is right now. This movie and in some of the previous movies before this, and unfortunately, even though this cool new director's coming in, he doesn't really change that. They're fighting in a field, and they look like men in suits, and that's
fighting in the field due to the budget.
Yeah,
you gotta say.
I know. I feel like they could have shot a little bit more, and for considering how creative he was as a director, I'm surprised at how little he played with shooting the actual monsters.
I have to somewhat disagree. In fact, I'm going to disagree quite a bit, only in that they use the shot, Joe. You remember the shot where the older male, who we have no idea what his relation to Ken or his family is.
He's just a dude.
Thank goodness we don't, because he's killed and it's just glossed over. He's killed by Hedorah after their party here at the end. But the shot where that guy, who's somehow so important in this film, and his female dancer lover lady are in the car, and then they're wondering what's happening. They look up and the sludge of Hedorah is creeping over the window, the front windshield of the car, and then they both like scramble out of the car, and Hedorah is right there eating the cars. Mm-hmm. From that, I can get the size of the monsters.
That's one of the best shots in the movie. Yeah, so okay.
but I agree somewhat. I don't. Okay,
I'm looking at this scene right now, and they're just like, you dudes in suits.
I think the reason it loses so much of the weight with the monsters, they do it right in that the film is certainly overcranked, so they're moving slowly, so you get the weight of their movements and the hits. But it's just that we see extended scenes of the monsters just fighting. If it's more intercut with the humans, or maybe more intercut, I want to say, Joe, because what really helped get the size of the monsters for me in Frankenstein Conquers the World is the amount of the environment they were using to destroy each other with. Not just rocks, but he's uprooting trees. He's using like they're not torches, but he's using entire trees he's uprooted as torches, throwing them at Gabra, and they use the environment fantastically in that. In the end, the original ending, Frankenstein over the dead Baragon corpse. I think I said Gabra, but Baragon corpse. He falls into the earth. It's just, again, with so much use of these monsters and the extended scenes of seeing them fight, it loses the effect on the audience of them being real monsters, as opposed to just seeing people in suits. Overexposure to them.
I think a lot of it has to do with the direction of the scenes.
But I definitely understand, and I feel the same way that they don't do enough shots of them low angle shots. That's kind of a POV. Something. Yeah. Oh, true.
There's a famous scene in. Okay, it's not a famous scene, but it's a scene I love in The Aviator. Yeah, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio. It's directed by Martin Scorsese, and I think it's based on a real event. So this guy's this Hughes guy, he was this airplane guy, and he got into the movie industry, right? And they had all these shots of planes against empty sky, and he's like, it looks like nothing. It just looks like they're there. You got to have clouds, you got to have the ground, or you got to have movement. You got to have something for it to go against, so that there's it brings us in. It shows us
action.
It shows us contrast in movement.
That's the right word.
So when you have something still. So if you have movement against a blank background, it doesn't look like movement. If you have movement against something that's still, then suddenly it looks like movement. And I would say the same is for scale in these movies. And I just feel like they get lazy halfway through the show era. They don't care about scale anymore. They cared about scale in Mothra versus Godzilla when they look up over the mountain and they see Godzilla there, and it's crazy. And there's all these like, and as the budgets get cheaper and cheaper, it becomes okay. Now we're just gonna have them fight in a field, and unfortunately, you lose the scale.
Subarai is gone, man. Subarai is gone. This is 71. He died in 70.
I feel like the other guys know
Nanako
that's a thing that you need to have.
I know that they know it's a thing, but how expert
they
are
have
they
to crank
in doing
out these movies? So.
Yeah, Subaraya, we didn't appreciate him enough when he was around. I don't think we ever will be able to.
I liked Ebirah. Ebirah, of course, had the little boats in front of the crowd.
It had the jet planes coming at him.
Yeah.
Well, also, you got to think that a lot of those effects, as you were talking about storyboards, were with King Kong. And King Kong is more of a... And we're going to see that in Kong Skull Island coming up here.
Sweet.
Kong is more of a moving creature in that he has a lot of movement in what he does. Godzilla always lumbers a little bit more, at least in our favorite representations of Godzilla. He's the hulking behemoth tank. Somebody in the Reddit page for Godzilla said that the Gareth Edwards Godzilla in these films going forward, he's the Brock Lesnar of the Monsterverse. Okay, Brock Lesnar, UFF.
Adam over my head.
Okay, some are going to get it, but he's huge. He's the hulking figure.
All right.
So I'm just saying that in contrast of the special effects in Ebirah, perhaps that's why it felt like energy, movement, those were storyboarded to be King Kong. When you have Godzilla in mind, it's more like less hits, more power in each hit. That's how I feel with Godzilla.
Oh, God. Okay, so we're entering the third act of the movie.
Yeah,
here.
this is the final scene. And again, Joe, there was no build up to this military coming in.
You're right.
We're very used to seeing gratuitous to somewhat gratuitous
military
scenes
porn. I just don't think they had the budget.
Goodness.
They are standing in front of a blue screen.
There are no missiles shot at either of these monsters. How weird is that? That's a staple, dude. That is a absolute staple of these films to have just their firecracker or no bottle rockets shot at them, but not a single bottle rocket. I mean, missile shot at these monsters.
Well, they're not trying to kill Godzilla in this movie. That's also
true.
That's different.
They also know
they're trying to just kill this thing with electricity.
They also know that. Yeah, it's a very weird use of toys that we just saw. Godzilla. We haven't seen Godzilla or Hedorah for a moment fighting because we've cut to... Okay, to set up this entire ending sequence for the listening audience, what happened? The youth of Japan went to party out in the fields, and somehow Hedorah sensed that they were there. Hedorah and definitely not made up for the climax of this film. Hedorah just shows up. I mean, at this point, he is a land-based creature because he's absorbed enough pollution and smog, as shown through those cartoon scenes, that he is on the land. He's got a flying form as well. Joe, his flying form, I told you.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but I told you what it was made from. In looking up research for this movie, it never stated the fact, but in previous films, they kept saying it. The wire frame for the head of Baragon, that wire frame that made up Baragon's head was the base structure used to create the flying Hedorah. So, some useful reappropriation of materials they had on hand. So they just made the flying
The
Hedorah.
hippies are up there. The Hedorah comes. He kills the hippies.
The hippies get pissed and throw their torches at him. What was happening was a final stand of the youth against. They're like, if we're only going to live one more day, we're going to party it up. So
Godzilla
that's what they do.
And Hedorah fight. They roll down a hill, and it honestly looks like a close up of a rolling dry turd rolling down a hill.
It's kind of
looks so weird
because this whole sequence is at night.
It looks so weird, man. And then they come down to the field, and then Hedorah's using his shock power.
Godzilla just used the X defense position of Ultraman. This movie was made in memoriam of Eiji Tsuburaya, and so there's a wonderful little note to Eiji Tsuburaya's creation of the Ultraman series. Ultraman always defends himself with an X pose with his arms. And Godzilla attempts to do so. And is burnt by Hedorah's like laser beam from his eye.
That's what that is just a great little thing.
It's a wonderful
and you would hope
Ultraman.
That like the Japanese audience back then probably kind of.
I don't think it would have been wasted on them. They would have seen that, and the fact that it's really humorous because Godzilla attempts it somehow. Joe, what is Godzilla's appropriation of
he's watched
of
that
pop
show.
culture?
Yeah.
Well, yes, not only that, but also in the Ichiro. After Godzilla's first landfall appearance, we see, I say Ichiro, Ken. Ichiro was the little boy in Godzilla's Revenge. Ken does the motion where he's kind of wipes his face, his mouth or his nose, and then like smacks his arm forward. And Godzilla does that like a half a dozen times in this film, again with all these body movements, emotion, his body language telling us what Godzilla's thinking. Because there's a lot. There's gratuitous shots of these monsters.
I'll give you something that's interesting about this fight.
Yeah. This final sequence.
Yeah. So the first thing that happens is that like I think Godzilla takes out his eye, one of his eyes. Like
one of Godzilla's own eyes?
No, his Hedorah's.
Yeah.
And then Hedorah, in turn, like sludges Godzilla's face, and it ruins one of Godzilla's eyes. So they're both like,
I believe it's in the opposite order there. But
okay.
Yes,
they're both eye patched monsters, like fighting each other. That's why it's definitely that he pulls the eyeballs out of the back of his skull. And you're right, there's a ton of eyeball imagery going on in this movie. That is something that I like in this thing. Another thing that I like that the last Showa era movies didn't really have is that they got kind of creative with the. Now, of course, I have my problems with how they shot it, but now they got really creative with sort of the choreography of the final battle. So
yeah,
it's a very dynamic final battle. It's not like the King Kong versus Godzilla fight where it's just Godzilla or any of the other movies that were after that. It's not Godzilla tripping all the time. That's really something I got kind of sick of.
I think it didn't happen.
Like, oh, what do we do? Okay, just make Godzilla trip.
Yeah, well, how do we weaken him?
Yeah,
because he has to have a weakness. And so we make him clumsy for some reason.
And he's not clumsy in this movie. I mean, he tries the little Ultraman thing, and he gets burned. But it's like a legitimate burn. And I don't know, I thought it was cool.
Godzilla got burned, yo.
Man, he got burned.
I don't think...
Oh, my gosh, the incompetence of the military in this scene.
I think we're misremembering that... Because he becomes clumsy in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and...
Even more so.
And Astro Monster, yes. It becomes worse and worse. I'm glad that I had forgotten that, Joe. Thanks for pointing that out. He hasn't been clumsy for a while. Thank goodness. Do you think that I don't remember which film it was? It may have. It's either one where Ghidorah was the titular monster, really. So either Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, or Astro Monster. But you know what may have aided in Godzilla's clumsiness? I think it was when he was dropped and his crotch crushed an electric tower. I think permanently after that, he was a little off balance, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
It either crushed through his crotch or went straight up his yoink.
Yeah.
So we see the failure of the military here, which I don't think is a message to the audience in any way.
The
incompetency.
I would
of our military.
I think his
Japanese special defense
pretty
force.
clear. I don't think he like tries to take the military out of the way.
Not
but
taking
the
pot
idea
shots
that the military were like, okay, these giant monsters are going to be fighting. We're just going to go ahead and make sure that all of our power is coming from the power lines that will invariably be in the way of these giant monsters.
Yeah.
How about we you can't find a different system like
of supply and power.
Or maybe we should try this in a different spot and just kind of let them go for a little while, because
it's an inevitability that power lines are going to be knocked down. You have two giant monsters fighting. When do they not
haven't
knock
they
down?
seen the other movies?
Yeah,
They got the action figures, right?
Oh, true. The other movies in air quotes, since this happens in
the other pieces
in
of
real life
history, except for of course the future stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Destroy All Monsters hasn't happened quite yet.
Yeah, I guess not.
But and neither has Astro Monster, since I believe that takes place in a future setting as well. But the ineptitude of the military in that they, I love.
It's just like, oh my gosh.
I prefer the no dialogue over the incompetence of the military when they're like, for some reason that always pisses me off in films. When somebody low rank in the military says, okay, the high ranking officer goes, when will this and this and this be ready? And they go, 10 minutes. And the high ranking officer goes back and says, you got one. You can't do that. I mean, it's great for tension building, I guess. It's not really, but you can't turn something that takes 10 minutes into one.
I would argue with the people saying 10 minutes, like, you see that monster? We're going to die.
so you can argue with them all you want. I would suggest. I was telling Joe that the military personnel on the power lines, they need to use their bodies as conductors for the why. Don't hook up the wires. Just grab both ends.
This is the epilepsy part of the movie. Godzilla. Okay, so the power lines, of course, don't work, and then
the
Godzilla.
Science of this movie is foolproof.
Godzilla. He blasts with his atomic breath.
There are two giant standing electro
field
movie
things.
Science is you just throw out the word electromagnetism, boom, you got movie science. But there's
sense.
two giant, what look like solar panels that are directly vertical of each other. They're directly vertical, it's pointed to the sky, apart from each other. As long as Hedorah is in between those two power cells,
it has power.
And it has power, which they've knocked
shock him
out.
and dry him out and make sure he doesn't reproduce.
So
right?
in a tense moment of the climax, it appears that all is lost. Hedorah is in between the two power cells, but only momentarily. Godzilla comes out of nowhere and powers it up with his atomic breath, which totally doesn't set afire the power cells like every single other time Godzilla uses his atomic breath on a
cells made
building.
They must be made out of space titanium. Which has
not been introduced yet.
Godzilla said, this is a setup, Drew. How
in the world did the military get a hold of space titanium? They knew that Mechagodzilla was coming.
I do love these 90s music video close-ups where from Hedorah's view, every time Godzilla's in frame, it's a super fisheye lens, and it's like a stretched image, and it's
that's
crazy.
The POV of Hedorah.
Yeah, and it looks like a Beasties Boys video. It's really zany.
Sabotage.
Yeah, it's really zany. And now he is here holding his eyeballs / testicles /
monkey,
whatever they
that
are.
Funky monkey.
And also Godzilla hates electricity, and somehow he's more okay with it in this movie.
I just think he's so pissed at this point, Joe. He does not care that he's standing in the middle of the two power cells, which, for some reason completely dehydrates, turns this giant Hedorah into dust. Godzilla's standing in the middle of it. Doesn't affect him in any way.
It turns the outer Hedorah into dust. Right?
It's a false ending for our audience.
The third act twist.
Yeah.
Is that, no, you gotta dry him out more.
It's that shamalama ding dong twist.
You gotta dry him out more, man. It's not quite enough there.
Shamamalama hama. Hamamadama ding dong.
Yeah, that's Quentin Tarantino's name for him. Now it's stuck. Okay, so apparently he was the director, Bono. He was brought down to producer.
Oh, Joe,
on the future Godzilla movies.
We got a comment. Godzilla's using an atomic breath to self-propel him through the air, flying. Flying Godzilla. There was two shots. There was two scenes shot. One of Godzilla running after Hedorah, which just that doesn't make
used. Okay,
it should have been used, but it doesn't make any sense to me because we've already seen Hedorah's flying form. It's pretty speedy. It's overpowered Godzilla with its smoke that it emits, so it choked out Godzilla once before. I think he could have outflown Godzilla running after him. Although perhaps in his weakened state, Godzilla could have caught up in a
jet
tense
propulsion
moment.
with the atomic breath as he's in the fetal position, flying backwards to slam his back into Hedorah mid-air to throw him down.
And what makes it even better?
The most ridiculous.
Is Godzilla grabs onto Hedorah, once again uses his jet propulsion to get him back there.
This is the most ridiculous scene
So
outside of any scene in the last movie.
With there being two scenes shot, the one where Godzilla ran after Hedorah's flying form trying to escape, and one where he used his jet propulsion, which it just blows my mind that was even shot, that was even storyboarded, conceived, the idea was passed on to actually being filmed. It made it on film, and it made it into this movie. So weird. You can't redeem your dark film by putting in a goofy atomic jet propulsion at the end. It just completely against the grain of the tone of the whole film. We keep repeating tone. It's dark. And now it's weird.
The director just put it in there to make it a light touch, she said.
Because it was going to be shown
at a... point was to make it an adult... Anyway.
The weirdness is that it was his choice to use that. So anyway...
Was it really? It wasn't
that's what I read.
There's
so much contradiction.
Sorry, Bono, that was the wrong choice.
Bono says things. Nanako says things.
Get this. So apparently, Bono attributes this film to the heightening popularity of Godzilla in the West, and he attributes it being listed on worst films of all time lists,
which I think is just a pot shot. This is not one of the worst films of all time. There are much, even at this point into the 70s, there are just truckloads of worse films.
There's tons of worse films in this, but it's like
I think they just wanted to go for something recognizable and throw it onto their worst films.
Tons of bad films made around here. There's bad films, and then there's movies that like try really hard to be good. Yeah. And then they really fail.
Yeah.
And it's almost like those ones are worse. So the idea that this is a popular series and this super bizarre, I guess, bad
whether
movie.
Or not you've seen a Godzilla film, it's weird. As Godzilla fans, it's weird, it's
a
weird.
Strange movie. Anyway, and
I just don't think it deserves that.
I don't think it deserves that either. But
not even coming from a Godzilla fan. I know it is coming from a Godzilla fan.
He attributes the rising popularity of Godzilla on this film. I don't know if he's correct on that. I'm pretty sure that the Raymond Burr Godzilla has a lot more to do with that. But
I don't know.
Who knows? Good. Maybe. I guess
in any case,
think what he wants.
Love it or hate it, negative review, positive review of this film, it's going to stick with you. Having watched it, you're like, what did I just watch?
Yeah, and if you're dropping acid at the same time, it's gonna be one heck of an experience.
Which Banos certainly did not do. There was no drugs involved in the creation of this
film.
Certified, stamped, Toho, clean, approved.
I mean,
Godzilla podcast, clean, approved.
I don't think there's much of a drug culture in Japan from what I know.
What about in the 70s, dude?
I don't even think in the 70s.
They were doing drugs in that club.
He must have been, but like, I don't know, man. It's not the same. So I can't really comment, but gosh, he's just holding disgusting clay. Look at the face of disgust on Godzilla.
Godzilla finally tears Hedorah to pieces. I mean, once already, Godzilla's been in this same situation where he's dried out Hedorah, and he's not taking any risks at this point. He is pulling Hedorah apart piece by piece, throwing him all over the place, and for the third and final time. Blasting him with these drying out rays, whatever, to dry him out. He's done.
Intestines.
He's done. Godzilla ain't having none of this.
Oh my goodness.
That's all I'm saying.
So you watched this one quite a bit. That's what's crazy to me is like of all the Godzilla movies to watch.
Well, for me, Joe, as I said, with me forcing people to watch Evil Dead, both the first and the second, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2,
I
Evil
love
Dead
those movies.
2, and I as well. I enjoy all the horror elements of this film. As
it definitely
weird
it has
horror as it is.
way more horror elements.
We were talking about that scene where the Japanese businessmen playing, it's not pachinko, those are machines, whatever the gambling with like little domino type things is that they do, and then they're killed, and it shows that shot of them just limbs in sludge. It's those type of elements. It's the weird trippiness of the club scene. It's this that he tears them apart. It's the horrifying scene of Ken yelling out at his papa as he's seen that tadpole and he knows he's in danger. It's the burning of his stepfather's face. All this stuff coming together. Yeah, they justified it as a kids movie because Godzilla flew.
That's, you know what? There is a counterpoint in that, and also the music is ridiculous.
So those 2 points make this film a silly film. Everything else, in the fact that, Joe, I think in the editing of this film, this is pure wild speculation, there was either a more clear relationship of that unknown male character to the family, and they kill him in the end, and so they edited out his relationship, or that was never even a part of it because they knew that they were going to kill him in the end. I don't know.
I have no idea how to judge that.
But he just died.
Yeah, he's just gone. And I don't know. He was kind of the weird guy anyway, so they just.
I want to say, for some, just again speculation, he was an intern for the scientist dad.
Yeah,
he was like the errand boy for him. But
it's such a weird. It's a weird movie, Drew, and we're approaching the close here.
We're mirroring that shot that Joe was talking about with the rising sun. It's now the setting sun. It's actually really well.
I think it's the
lit.
rising sun.
Oh, yes, because they fought through the night. So we see another rising sun. Yes, and I got to notice that we're seeing shots of more pollution, but the pollution is going in a reverse direction that every single other one has. Somehow maybe showing us that it's going backwards. I don't know. We see the same shot as we did in the beginning, the mannequin. See, Joe, I just say that it's going from right to left at the beginning of the film. Now all the pollution is going in the opposite direction.
That's creative. Look at that.
I don't know, Joe.
That's some creative direction right there.
But the message of this film is
looped the other way.
Pollution is bad. We should not pollute. It's such a simple message. I mean, it's beaten down on its audience.
I do wonder, like, which person likes to beat the message over the head more? Is it Ishiro Honda or?
I think that Ishiro Honda
if
does
Bono was given more opportunities to direct, how many of his movies would be like really socially conscious movies?
Ishiro Honda couches it in. It's more obscured. You have to read into it to get it. Wow, this movie just gratuitously throws it at your face like Hedorah muck. So, you can't walk away from this film.
Honda is more subtle until the very end when they say the thesis line and the movie closes.
If they don't state the thesis line, it's made well aware to us at the end. Yes, if they don't at least state it. If they don't end up stating it,
we need to stop doing nuclear bombs. And then it ends. that happens a lot. Or hey, I'm gonna be with you, kiddo. Be a good boy, or something like that. It's something that's way more obvious in the Honda stuff right at the end. But throughout the rest of the movie, it's not necessarily like hitting you over the head.
Upon multiple viewings, you certainly get it. And you might get it. I
still think Frankenstein Conquers the World is probably his Honda's most subtle work. And yet another one.
Wait. Did he direct Frankenstein Conquers the World?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
That's kind of it's not that subtle because we all know what it's about. But
it's the Frankenstein story.
It's the Frankenstein story, but it's still like it's more subtle than like putting a whole bunch of pictures of pollution on the screen. But I still don't mind it, man. I like the brash sort of filmmaking aspect of this movie. I wish that Bono got more opportunities to direct because I would have liked what he would have to see what he would have done with other movies if he had like just been like, you know what, I'm going to be the crazy director.
Oh, he certainly showed us that he was in this film.
All out. It's a nutso movie, man. And I know it's seen as one of the worst Godzilla movies by a lot of people. I honestly enjoyed it more than the last few Godzilla movies we've watched. I would say especially Godzilla's Revenge. But even then, I still enjoyed this movie better, even on the second run, better than Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah.
And I would recommend this movie as like just a very different Godzilla movie. We've mostly watched the Showa. We've only watched the Showa era up to this point.
On this podcast, yes.
So out of the Showa era films in a row,
this one hit it out. This hit a home run.
I say this is required viewing. just as to see the full gambit of Godzilla movies.
I think I was thinking about all this, Joe. So the movie's over. It's been over for a minute. I was thinking about how we need to do this from now on. We're going through too many films, so we're not going to create a list. But what you just did was perfect. Whether or not we would recommend the movie. You do.
We got to go back to our rankings at some point.
Okay, but
we'll wait till
we'll have to figure it out.
Something. Or wait till
I
piece of paper.
Also recommend it not just on my nostalgia, which again, it's literally it is impossible to separate your nostalgia from a new critical viewing of the film, but it holds up. It was squashed a little bit. I remembered it being scarier, as you do, because things are just scarier when you're younger. But all the elements come together to create a competent, weird Godzilla film. I think more than competent.
I think it drags and it has problems, but I love what they were trying to do.
The lack of dialogue, weird.
The lack of dialogue was
songs,
hard.
Strange.
The last scene was really stretched out, but I dug a lot of this movie. So I don't know. I think Chris Japper didn't like this movie. I think this was the movie that he said was terrible before talking about Godzilla's Revenge.
It's certainly polarizing. I don't think more people hold it in the negative, but it's like it's just split. It's clean split. Whether you're
Roger
negative or positive on this film,
who gave a terrible review to Godzilla in 1984,
said this was his favorite.
Said this was his favorite Godzilla movie.
Which you can always trust Roger Ebert.
Well, no, but you always read him and then you can argue with him later. I dig Roger Ebert. I wish he was still around. I'm having trouble finding like a replacement critic.
Yeah.
Because I used to read the Roger Ebert reviews for stuff before going to see a movie.
Pretty sure his website is still up, but it's other people obviously writing for him.
Yeah, it is. So there's a staff
of
writers that will just write their critic reviews on his site because it's obviously the site still makes money. So they can do that.
Doing it in his name.
I do watch some Mark Kermode, who I disagree with way more often than Ebert, but that's okay. You can disagree with a critic that you follow.
We're just going to go off for a minute here, but have you ever heard...
Well, we're done with the movie, so who cares?
Have you ever heard the Slash Filmcast? I listen to them quite a bit.
I listened to one single episode where they interviewed the guy who did 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay, well, I've never listened to any...
Good podcast.
Yeah,
that's
they're really... intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're talking about, and they watch a lot of movies. So I just am well informed by them. Yeah, exactly.
I'll check them out.
Anyway, the Slash Filmcast. It's interesting because it's always three different perspectives, and they all kind of bring different nuances to their reviews. Okay, Joe. There's some news. So I would recommend the movie.
I know what the big piece of news is too.
Tell me.
So Godzilla was nominated for the Japan Academy Prize for Best Picture.
It had many nominations.
Got a lot of nominations. I don't know which ones it won besides one.
I have them all here, Joe.
Okay. I know I'm not going to bury the lead. It won Best Picture in Japan, which is crazy to me. I didn't think this movie would win. I just thought it was going to be like nominated.
Yeah.
I just figured, my assumption is that and maybe it's a dumb assumption. It's kind of the Academy Awards here. They tend to just nominate like one special effects movie, and it usually does not win.
Yeah.
You
got to keep
like
that
one
in the
big
pool.
movie.
Yeah.
Like they nominated
A
Inception.
blockbuster.
This year they nominated Arrival, but they always or almost always pick the small art film favorite.
And Hacksaw Ridge.
So
I don't know if it was
that was nominated.
Best Picture. It was
nominated
Best Picture.
for Best Picture.
Again, that's another.
The Moonlight one.
Yeah.
And let me think of
Wait,
the year.
I thought La La Land. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to get into that.
You okay?
Charlie Horse.
Drew's got a Charlie horse, so he's very squinty right now. Or like a year where it was Avatar versus Hurt Locker and Hurt Locker won. That just tends to happen. But one of the things, I was looking up the nominees for like best foreign film in Japan. Like The Dark Knight won.
Oh, I know
for
that
best
this year
foreign language
foreign
film over
films,
there.
It was like Sully and some other ones
For them, yeah.
this year.
Yeah. So it's like, it's interesting to see like which ones of the foreign language films, which American films get in, and
which ones
win.
resonate with Japanese audiences.
Yeah, that's always very interesting to see. I was surprised that it won, frankly. I didn't think that, like, I mean, I've seen some of the Japan Academy Prize winners, and I really liked that new Godzilla. I don't think that was on the same page as, like, Departures, which is one of my favorite all-time movies that won that prize as well, but it's a good movie, and I'm so crazy, insane surprised that it won that prize.
All right, so the 7 awards that it won were Best Picture. This is Shin Godzilla at the Japanese Academy Awards. Joe, don't knock your laptop off the table.
I won't. It'll be fine.
Best Directors, Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi won conjointly.
That's right. So
Best Cinematography, Best Lighting Direction. Sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to get through these. Best
Cinematography,
Art Direction, Best Sound, Best Editing. Those are all the Japanese Academy Awards it has won. This film has been winning a major number of accolades leading up to the 40th Japanese Academy Prize, including Kinema Junpo Awards. It won Best Screenwriter and Hideaki Anno, a Blue Ribbon Award. It won Best Film. Mainichi Film Awards. It won Best Film. There it won Best Supporting Actress for Mikako Ichikawa. That's the supporting actress, not the main lead woman, I do believe. Best Art Direction. Yeah. And in the West, Shin Godzilla was recently nominated by the Saturn Awards for Best International Film. That ceremony will take place in June. This article, you can read all about all these awards and other things on sci-fi.com.
Sweet.
And yeah, thank you, G-Man, for sharing that.
That's exciting news. I think at the beginning of this podcast,
That is a boatload of awards.
in one of our first episodes,
if
I
it was
said,
not the first.
there will never be a
And
Godzilla movie
I agreed
that will
wholeheartedly.
ever match that will ever be nominated for like a Best Picture award.
We went so far as to say
Since that first one.
never win awards, but then along the course of the podcast, we found out that it has won technical, like special effects awards, and it's given that it was going to win those. But for Best Picture, Best Story, I believe
I'm
I
eating
read.
my words. Yes.
Yeah, as am I. And best,
That's crazy.
Best. It didn't win. Best.
That's the biggest prize I know about.
No, best
in Japan is that Japan Academy Prize.
Yeah. So this film, for fans, this is great. I mean, we already knew the film was great, but getting confirmed for us by the Academy
And I
over
think
in Japan.
I think it was sent here. I can't remember how they do foreign language nominees for our Academy Awards.
Yeah. Are you talking about?
I want to say
Academy.
I
like
want
the
to say
Oscars?
Oscars.
Okay.
I want to say that I don't think it didn't get on our stuff, obviously, but
No. Hey, we're getting in the Saturn Awards though, which is for like sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, no, it
Oh.
says right there that they're it was recent the
Arrival's
said
gonna
that.
win, but
yeah, in the West. Best international film. Was Arrival an American film?
yeah.
Okay, so this
it
was
was an English language film. I don't know if it was an American, but it's
Saturn
American
Awards
produced.
for Best International Film. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We have a comment on
Okay.
Destroy All Monsters from Ayame Chiba. Thank you, Ayame, for your support through Patreon. Thank you for your camaraderie, all your comments, and thank you for talking to us directly to Joe.
Okay, this is cool for me because on a previous episode for Destroy All Monsters, I couldn't find that much information on the cinematographer, so
And
she found some for me.
Ayame is Japanese, so
Yeah, so she can search the Japanese internet.
woo.
and be able to read it, and probably has better information than we do.
Certainly more information.
Definitely has better information than we do. She says, I have a bit more information on Kankura Taichi, the cinematographer on Destroy All Monsters. Kankura-san filmed 2 more tokusatsu films for Toho, Latitude Zero and Space Amoeba, which we talked about.
Yeah.
He retired from Toho, so we thought he died. He retired.
We speculated he may have
We
passed
speculated
away.
that he died. He retired from Toho in 1971 at age 60, which in Japan,
Let's see. In Japan, we often compute age a little differently than in the USA. You are
start out at age 1
at birth and add that every age. So I guess he was 59, right? Yeah, that would be 59. And he passed away in 1981. So he would have been
many years
70.
later.
Okay. He did have one posthumous credit, not for Toho, but for TVC Yamamoto, a Geki, which is a historical period film. I haven't heard that word in a long time. In 1983, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for all these butchered names.
Yeah, gee, man, get back on here, man.
Yomigai,
Read our Japanese for us.
Taodao. Okay.
Taodao.
Roughly Rescue of Taodao. A film about the burning of Mount Hei Temple complex by the Demon King warlord Oda Nobunaga. I know that name from 1571. Kankuro-san was also a director in his early career up until 1954 when he became a full-time cameraman for Toho. So not all of his credits are as cinematographer. That's interesting.
A man of many talents.
Also, you can see the footage of Manda fighting Godzilla and a lot of other deleted scenes on the Tokusatsu Toho movie outtakes DVD.
I was going to say, perhaps at the end of the Showa era, perhaps just at the end of this podcast, we need to do that and the Godzilla versus Bambi.
I didn't even know that existed. Look at that.
We need to do that and Godzilla versus Bambi.
I'm just going to shoot myself in the head thinking that there is a Godzilla versus Bambi.
Hey, it's like a 2-minute.
So anyway, I didn't know he was a director, and he retired from Toho and didn't just die like we thought he did, or at least I thought he did. I was like, he just kind of stops. So he does these big movies right at the end, he just stops. So that was kind of odd for me. Thank you for that information, Ayami. Drew, do we have anything else?
We have 2 iTunes reviews.
Oh my goodness.
I'll talk while you're pulling those up, but I have come to the I have concluded that we are going to give away another figure. Because it's not there. I look through figures, Joe.
Okay.
Some figures go for several $100s.
Let's not do one of those.
No, we will not be doing one of those. So I find ones that are, a little cheaper, but still great. Those are the ones we've given out. Given out a Mecha Godzilla, given out a King Hedorah, given out a Godzilla 1954. We will be giving out, drum roll please, a Godzilla from this era, the end of the Showa era. That Godzilla, as I in my opinion, great looking, certainly iconic in any case. And I won't be telling you exactly what year because I have not purchased it yet, and it is cheap. I do not want our listeners to go out and find these and spike the price. In fact, before the release of this podcast, I may need to secure the purchase of that. We have found out in the past that certain hard-to-get DVDs become harder to get when we mention their scarcity on the podcast.
Oh my goodness, I just totally searched for the wrong podcast. I think that's just random. I don't think that's our cause.
I really don't think so either, but I don't want to leave that to chance. So we'll be giving that away to new. Joe, I've yet to even talk to you about this, but what do you say about the only eligible people are iTunes reviewers? What do you think?
That's what we've been doing for the
figures?
The figures. So.
I thought we'd been also including those who give us something through the website.
Well, yeah, they can send a review in through another means, yeah.
All right, but iTunes reviews. Give us an iTunes review. Yeah, I installed iTunes on my Windows. So please give us an iTunes review. We're begging you.
I'm not begging, but I am asking.
I'm asking.
Asking for it. Okay.
Joe's asking. I'm on my knees.
We got two iTunes reviews that will be eligible for the next giveaway.
Okay.
And by the way,
Joe's going to rattle them off for
Anthony
us.
Catton. I'll get in contact with you soon.
I was wondering if you'd say something on the podcast.
I'm not going to say anything else than that, but I'll get in contact.
Anthony Catton, Joe will get in contact with you.
We got our first one from Crits Happen. All right, February 9th, 2017, from the US of A. Amazing podcast, 5 stars. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've loved Godzilla for about 25 years and own all of them on VHS. Way to go, man.
Yeah, man. Your VHSs that'll be completely unplayable, and then another half in a century or so.
Just wait, and then there will be no more VHS repairment either. Like, there's nothing you can do with that player. I do suggest digitizing them. My good friend. It always makes my day when I see a new episode in my podcast. Keep up the awesome job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Crits happen. I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you for the positive support and encouragement.
Our last commentary here is an unstoppable force of podcasting / commentary entertainment. 5 stars from Biggs Boss.
Woo!
On March 1st, 2017. Woo! Like Godzilla himself, this podcast is lumbering through. I don't know. Is that a
It's something I've said on this podcast.
Like, Joe is really fat, so he lumbers everywhere. Like Godzilla himself, this podcast is lumbering through every single Godzilla-related movie, leaving a trail of destruction.
I just want to
informed, and apparently we're leaving a trail of informed kaiju fans, so that's good.
Good.
We are uninformed before we watch the movie, so
we do our best.
We try our best.
We're on that. Have you read the whole thing?
Whether I am listening at work or watching along at home, this is always an enjoyable and educational experience. Look at that. It's educational, Drew.
I want to say it's...
Thank you very much, Biggs Boss.
We do our best to provide edutainment, a little bit out of both camps, both pools, entertainment and education, and hopefully we hit slightly on both. Thank you very much. So you're both eligible, and every iTunes review, which thus far has not won, is also eligible. I just got to say, though, all the ones that haven't won so far are a little weak there.
Got some competition going on.
I really do like some of those new ones. It's not only that they're fresh in my mind, but they're well written out, have some great points there. We want something that informs those who are looking for reviews of the podcast.
I want something that just,
want something
pleasures me.
Wait, did you say something?
Something that pleasures me.
No, that's...
As far as like how a review, I'm kidding, guys. Just, give us I like the reviews we got today, and just if you haven't done an iTunes review and you got the time and you're on iTunes listening to this show, please give us an iTunes review. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, so you can go to GodzillaPodcast.com. So if you want to comment on the episodes that we have there, that's great. You can join the forums if you want. There's some forums on the Geekdom Entertainment site. You can tweet me at Joseph Vigilier.
You can tweet me at Drew Daybell or Gojira Jaeger. That's Jaeger.
And what do we want to say? Patreon.
Yes.
Thank you to our Patreon donors. If you want to support the show, there's a Patreon link, and there's kind of like you can get stuff per month, basically. Yeah, it's per episode.
You can receive things per month, as in we do a DVD giveaway a month.
We do. And we probably need to do that on the next episode, I'm thinking.
Yes, absolutely. That'll happen on the next episode.
So
we have been a little bit behind, Joe, on our Patreon perks there.
Yeah.
What do you have something to say? Because you're more...
We designed a sticker, and I just haven't ordered them.
So we have... Are we doing the 1 or are we doing the 2?
I was just gonna order both and see which one looked better.
Right.
That was my problem with it.
So
I don't know which one will look okay.
I got to. I don't know how well that picks up on there. I don't know how well it picks up, but Joe.
I don't know what it sounds like right now.
Yeah, I just clap for Joe. I gotta give him a pat on the back. He designs these stickers for. I don't know at what price point you have to be donating to the podcast, but you can win.
It's like $5. It's something.
It's like 4
low.
or 5. Yeah, but any one donation of that amount will receive this custom kaiju sticker. We have reached the overall donation for months now. We've reached the Patreon perk that we will be. I'm talking about our raids again.
Okay. I was like, I thought we were almost on 1, and then it dropped a little bit, but
we did once, Joe, hit the Zone Fighter goal.
Oh, we are $1 away from that Zone Fighter.
Well, Joe, we reached it last commentary. Then it dropped back down.
Did we?
Yeah. We've reached it.
We haven't reached it where it's been charged, so like we haven't done that yet. So that hasn't happened.
We're just like right there at the cusp of the Zone Fighter commentaries. Those will come along. That would be easier for us to do than the raids.
Yeah. I got the green screen though, man.
You got the green screen. I have the camcorder. We're telling you right now, it's going to be a video. You're going to be watching us Mystery Science Theater 3000 style. Riffing on raids.
I'm excited about that.
We're trying our hand at... Well, I'm trying my hand at comedy. Joe.
I'm on that.
Joe's a funny man.
I
Joe's
can
got
be
his
pretty
bits.
funny. I just have to have more sleep.
But we're going to do that for you. It's been months since we've reached that goal. We didn't realize at the time that we wanted to do something so special for it, so it's taken a while to gather the equipment necessary. Yeah, that's about it for the Patreon donors.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're sorry for... I feel like we've been letting you guys down.
I'm not sorry. If you've ever been a Patreon donor,
you know that
you'll have your reward. The information stays there, so if we have to mail you something or get in contact with you for the episodes together, it's still on there, so don't worry about it. I've said the same thing.
Don't worry about it.
We've had Patreon for like a year and a half on Ultima. Man, you just deal with it. You just get it done. And it will be done.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Godzilla podcast.
There was a lot.
We're definitely going to have a bonus episode this month because of Khan Skull Island, so get forward to that. That's
coming very soon since the movie just came out this last Thursday.
Man. Go watch Godzilla versus Hedorah. We'll see you guys next time.
Keep it G.